All right. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Sports to Suits Live. I am your host, Amanda Banks, and I have the honor every week to highlight former athletes that are leveraging their background in sports and seeing success in business. And I am super excited this week to host John Caleb Wilson. John, thank you so much for joining.
Oh my gosh, thanks for having me. Really excited to be on and excited about our conversation.
Yeah, and for anybody that's tuning in, I was a guest on John's podcast, Make a Play. What was it, like a couple weeks ago?
A couple weeks ago, yeah.
So it's going to be so fun being on the opposite end of the interviewing table today. So I get to ask all the
Yeah,
questions, which is super exciting. So for
that'll be
anybody
great.
tuning in, please drop us a comment. Let us know where you're tuning in from. We have people that literally tune into the show from all over the world. So I always get really excited to see where people are tuning in from. Before we dive into to the conversation, I do want to have two little comments and announcements to make. One, thank you, Michelle Dahl, for hosting the female roundtable panel discussion this morning. It was amazing. I'm hoping to get a link so that I can share it with everybody. It was amazing women talking about leadership, and it was such a powerful conversation. So I just appreciate Michelle for doing that. And then the second thing is if you are in Nashville, Tennessee, or surrounding areas, we are hosting, the Nashville Technology Council is hosting an event on Thursday from 8:30 a.m. to 10 o'clock. It is going to be amazing. It's with my good friend Rhett Power. So I hope to see you there. I'll drop a registration link in the comments as well. But those are the two things that I had to give just a quick update on. But John, while I'm checking to make sure all the technical bits are working, why don't you tell the audience just a little bit about yourself?
Wow, I'll just say I'm not the baller type of interview type of people that you have on. So hopefully, like I
No, you
said,
totally are. So don't downplay this.
I hope I don't let you down. I can talk, but I don't have some of the athletic backgrounds and further on that other people have. So, but I'm trying to elevate my game as well. But like Amanda said, my name is John Wilson, and I'm from the Mississippi, Memphis area, North Mississippi, and played baseball and football all my life, and played baseball and excelled at that from elementary school on into high school, and played a little college baseball at JUCO baseball in Jackson, Tennessee. And would have played a little bit more, but my thing there, and Amanda knows this, I wanted to go to Ole Miss, where I was from, because Eli Manning was in school, and I did not want to miss the vibe of what was going down in Oxford. So I think Lane Kiffin has brought the vibe back since he's there coaching. So learned so much about sports, and I've taken that into business and my grit, my drive, my effort. But I graduated from Ole Miss in 2007. I moved to marry my wife, Erin, who I met, who went to Middle Tennessee, and he lives here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. So moved up here in 2007 and got straight into commercial contracting in the fire safety world. Now I'm with Summit Fire and Security. So held multiple roles: sales, national accounts, leadership, construction sales, and just learned to work with all different types of clients, hospitals and architects, engineers, and different things like that. So that's a quick overview of me. I love sports. I coach on the side. I'm always trying to get other people to make a play. That's my podcast title. If I say to my kiddos or somebody that I'm working with, if I'm opening my mouth, is trying to help you or elevate your game, and not just to hear myself speak. So hopefully that's a little quick rundown from me.
Well, and I have had the pleasure of getting to know you, and there's not very many people that have a systems integration background that we can talk about system sales. So we're going to dive pretty heavy into sales topics today, because I think that there are a lot of people that tune into this show that are really interested in how do I get into sales, or how do I maximize sales for my organization. And I think you and I can paint a pretty good picture for that specific topic. But before we go down that path, why don't you share a little, like, how did you get into baseball? Like, why baseball? Because I know you excelled at a really young age as well. And I'm really curious, like, how did you get into baseball, and like, what was your journey and your trajectory there?
Well, my oldest brother, Jeremy, would always take us out. We lived out in the country. So, man, we had Nintendo and different things like that. But all else we had was sports and baseball. So we'd go outside, and I just would hit. And he asked us to go outside. I always went. I didn't complain. And as we got older, I didn't do travel ball until like 11, 12 and all that, because we lived in a small town in Mississippi. So you played ball, and but I guess I was pretty good at it. And so when we would go, about 9 years old, after the spring season, we got the heaviest bats that we could find, wooden bats, didn't have metal bats. Not that we were in the Stone Ages or anything, but
you weren't using clubs.
No, but it elevated our game because we had the heavier the bat, the stronger you got, and the hand-eye coordination. So my grandfather played 3 sports at Louisiana Tech back in the late 30s. I know it's a long way back.
Wow.
But I think there was some athletic ability there, but at the same time, effort and reps and the like and the want to, that was there. And something was also inside of me. There was that will to win. I did not want to lose. And no one ever talked to me about losing. That it was unacceptable. That was just in my heart. So if we lost a state tournament or a World Series type of thing, I was not happy because I wanted to win so bad. Not at win all cost. So that's kind of my journey. I had some athletic ability built in with some reps, the love of the game, and the willingness to want to win and not lose. And I still have that.
When did you recognize that? Like, was that something that was just instinctual, or was it something that was like that you grew over time? Because I think that there's pros and cons to that, right? Because I was the same way. I wanted to be the best. I didn't want to lose, but at some point that became detrimental to some of the successes that I wanted to have, right? So like, at what point did you shift into that mindset, or was it just something that you carried the entire time?
I think when I was 8, you get to the All-Star state tournaments in South Mississippi, and for me, you come up short. And it hits me hard. And next couple of years, we always have 1 or 2 players short of winning that. But so it was unacceptable. No one was preaching that win at all costs. It was just in my heart. I did not want to lose. So, when I was 12, you lose a state tournament with one team, and then my travel team, we're winning the World Series in Arkansas. So I have both sides. I'm crying on both sides. Cry because we lost. Cry because I helped. Hit a couple home runs in the championship game and win and get over that point. So it hurts. But I didn't.
Did that cause any challenges? Like, I just imagine, like, as a young kid, right? Like, that time is a trying time in anybody's life, right? Like 12, 13, 14, like that's a tough time. But like, did that cause any challenges?
I didn't have any arguments with other kids. I knew the effort that I put in, and it elevated me. And it was, when you got in the batter's box, you expected to hit a home run. You expected to dominate, but I didn't get in arguments with other kids. But I was frustrated that we couldn't get over the hump because I knew what I was doing, not with the practice of when I was on the field, but when I was practicing by myself with my brother, taking lessons and such. So, and it wasn't about me. I did not like losing. I still don't, but I don't coach my teams now at win or all costs. It's trying to give them the best experience, make them confident young men and women and such like that. So
dive into that a little bit, because I think that's like, there's a lot of travel sports that happens. Like, my daughter's in travel ball, right? Like, there's a lot of travel sports, and as parents, we try to support our kids and even at times try to coach our kids, but there's a lot of challenges around that. You just mentioned something that's really powerful, and that's supporting the kids and not like being at this win at all cost mentality. So like, how do you go about, and we're diving way on another tangent here, but I'm fascinated with this, like dive a little bit deeper into the methodology around coaching kids, because I think it's really, really critical for parents to have a good understanding of that. And as former athletes, I've had to take a gut check a little bit and say, I was a gymnast. I'm not a soccer player. Like, I can't coach my kid in soccer, and I need to step in as the mom, not the coach. So like, talk a little bit about that piece to it, because I think it's something that's really powerful that a lot of parents probably should hear.
Yeah. So I'm coaching my kids right now, and I know that they're growing in their sports journey, which is just one part of life. It's not the only thing. Sports is an entertainment thing. It is to entertain people. It's a business. So we need to keep that in perspective. And so no one take offense to that, but because I love sports.
Drop us a comment. Let us know your thoughts. We're okay with it. Yeah, but I think it's critical. Like, I think that this is an important topic to talk about.
Yeah, it is. And so I just realized that they have different personalities than me, and they're going to have their own sports journey. I was the gritty, go get it, and whatever it takes. I wanted to win. So if I had to yell at somebody or whatever, like pick the level of competition up in yourself. But each person's flame is going to grow when it grows. So don't stamp it out before it has a chance to grow, because that will hurt them in their business life or other things, because they'll remember how they were treated or viewed as an athlete And everybody's more than just an athlete. And I've heard some conversations with some of your other guests. So for right now, when I'm coaching kids, it's all about helping them be more confident with other kids when they're in school and everything like that. It's one way to be confident in who you are. And the travel ball is, man, it's so much. So I don't want to get to where I'm comparing my kids to someone else, because they've put more time and effort into it. You can't effort and reps fix just about everything. But if your kid is 10 and this other kid's light years ahead of him, he may be more athletic and things, but he still had more reps to gain those skills to be successful on the field. So take a step back, relax. There's more to life than just sports, and tell your kids you love them. You love watching them play. And like last night, my son plays soccer and baseball, and he hasn't played soccer since he was 3 or 4. He's 9. So he was out there last night. It was his first time meeting those kids, encouraging, high-fiving, asking their name, being a leader, being happy, not controlling things. And guess what? I wasn't coaching him. And I was so happy to see that he was happy in his sports journey, just learning a new game, because this is a game. So that's what I would say to that question.
So, okay. And this is something like I want to personally know, because I had some coaches in my life that like made substantial impact. Like they stepped into certain roles within my life that just absolutely like they made an impact. And as coaches, especially kids coaches, I think you have such a unique ability to impact that kid in such a beautiful way, and paint this picture around leadership, discipline, focus, grit, and not do it in a harmful way, but do it in such a beautiful way. Did you have coaches throughout your journey in sports that just absolutely stood out, and why?
Yeah, look, from my elementary school days to my rec teams or rec all-stars to my travel teams, and then my travel team where all of us went and played college right before we left for college. We all went to different schools to play right after high school. Those people had such an impact on me. And guess what? I reach out to them. I call them. I comment on Facebook. I tell their wives how much I appreciate it and what they did for me. And everybody, you look in leadership now, people need to handle kids and people differently, because people are different. Introverts, extroverts, type A, type B, Enneagram, Myers-Briggs, everybody's different. So you need to realize that you need to handle people differently. I needed a rah-rah person. I needed somebody that respected me, cared for me, would take the time, put their arm around me, and coach me. Well, when I got into high school, I didn't have that. And my love of the game started to go down. And then my level of personal effort went down. Still excelled in ways, I feel like, with just practice level, talent, and skill. But I wasn't putting the extra effort outside, because my love of the game would start to, I would not be stripped a little bit. But I think, like you said, that I do know those people, and I still reach out to them and tell them how much I appreciate them, even years and years ago. So great question.
I mean, and it doesn't even have to be a sports coach. Like I think about like one of my elementary school PE teachers, like it's so strange. Like,
oh man,
they have such a unique ability to impact people, and it's such a thankless job. Like I think about coaching, and there's a little bit of a, I coach gymnastics 1 day a week for quite some time, and I've recently not been doing that lately, but it's a tough thing. So parents, if you are listening to this, thank the coaches. It will go a long way, and they have such a beautiful ability to impact the lives of kids. I mean, it's unlike anything else. So let's talk about college. So you go from playing, travel ball and travel sports, love of the game. And then in high school, you start kind of declining that love of the game a little bit, but then you go into college and play. So what was that journey like?
So it's funny. I'll say this, when I got to Jackson, Tennessee, we had a house. A few of my teammates, we had instead of dorms, there's 6 of us that had a house. So a lot of immaturity there. You had to, right when you go in, you got to get to class. You got to get to the practices and things like that. So you're starting to see about what you want to do outside of high school, and you're around, you start to see that maybe there's 10 to 20% of the people that have that focus that now want to continue to go on the play in the 4-year schools and things like that. And you see those people that are now coaching as well, even on Facebook. So, but it's not a rude awakening, but man, you got to get after it, and you got to have some stability, some organization. You got to get to class. But I had some great coaches in college that were kind people. And that's the thing, when I had professors and coaches and teachers that treated me the right way, guess what? I didn't want to let them down. And I wasn't the perfect student. I was happy. I wasn't rebellious as a player. And I can still talk to my college coaches, and they remember that. But I even tell them why I didn't want to continue. But learned a lot about myself, and if I want to get better at something, I got to spend more time on it. And so that happened in the classroom and on the field as well.
Well, and for anybody tuning in, Jackson, Tennessee is not the largest city. I went to, I actually had a gymnastics competition out there. We went to the Casey Jones Museum. It was like a buffet or something. So I remember Jackson, Tennessee. It has an interesting place in my heart. So talk about that. We have a ton of student athletes that tune into this show. And so you mentioned a couple things that
Here we go.
Yeah, a couple of things that you learned. So why don't you pick out like 3 or 4 of them that, like, as far as recommendations or advice of words of wisdom, encouragement that you could provide to these student athletes? Because like I said, I have a ton of them that tune in, and it's always interesting to hear, like, a lot of the student athletes are very eager for information, but also to feel like they're not alone in that journey, because it's a challenging journey from what I understand. And so, like, what words of encouragement or wisdom could you give to them?
Yeah, it's crazy, man. You can, even 2002, 2003, you can still, and man, I'm sure you can feel, even though we're older now and a little bit more mature, you can feel your feelings from then. So we really can empathize on what we're going through. I think you see a lot of successful athletes, when they're coming in, they keep their grades up. They're practicing outside of just the time slot with their team. And I think it helps when you're organized, and your parents you're organized at home. So, but if you have a lifestyle that's not as organized, well, you're going to need to step up your game. And if you want to become a better student, a better athlete, if you want to play more and not be, if you on the bench or just a support player, you've got to put the time in outside of the regular scheduled practices with your team. If you want something bad enough, you'll go get it. If you don't, you won't. And you need to live with those regrets. I mean, there are so many people that came from the JUCO level like me. And I could have done some other stuff if I wanted to. That's what it comes down to. But if you want to get to a level of athletics, you want to play in the pros, you have to get after it. And you have to take your game to the next level and learn and get on YouTube, ask for feedback. You will ask for feedback until you're retired, even into your 60s or 70s. So if you want to get better, ask people for feedback. How can I get better? What are you seeing on my game? How can I become more athletic? How can I make more plays? What do you see in my game?
Well, and not just that in sports, like in business, this is like totally applicable as well.
Absolutely.
Like, how can I get better? Who can I surround myself with that, I can learn from, or that's willing to teach or mentor? So we've got some people popping in here. We've got Cameron Harris popping in from California, which is exciting. Good to see you, Cameron. If you're tuning in, definitely let us know where you're at. Drop some questions in too. We're always happy to answer some questions. And so let's talk about the transition, because I know you and I both share a little bit of a challenge around our transition out of sports. So share a little bit. So you played in college a little bit, then you transitioned out. So what was that journey like for you?
It's kind of time to grow up, Day I graduated from Ole Miss was a tough day, because I'd wanted to go to Ole Miss for so long. And then now it's like, it's over. Now I got to go be a big boy, if you will. And so
was it everything? Was it everything you expected for it to be? Was it amazing?
Oh, it was amazing. And that's just a true college town. Ole Miss people, small town, Mississippi, Oxford, Mississippi, the prettiest campus in the country. It really is. And it's just a true college town. But, I always had that moment of when the next thing happened. It got you kind of emotional because you worked so hard to get to that, the culmination. It's time to go grow. And then I was going into financial advising at first, right there, 07, 08, and then market crashed. And so I didn't need to be a 23-year-old telling people what to do with their stocks and bonds.
Financial advising, like, I'm really curious, because there are a lot of people that are going into that profession. And I'm just curious for you, like, why did you pick financial advising? Was it just something that, like, you thought would be interesting, or like, what was it?
No, I had friends of the family, somebody we went to church with that owned an advising firm in the Southeast, and they liked me, and I was great with people. But here's the thing. I studied English and political science. I did not know what I was talking about. I could have, and I worked my tail off to pass the exams and all that on the side, and speak of the level of effort and commitment. And then, I just stumbled into the commercial contract and the system side of things. So, it was hard. I think for me, I appreciate the big picture so much, from where we've gone to then ending and going to something new. I don't mind appreciating that point and that transition and where you come and where you're going, and just the ending of those friendships and such. In baseball, my last travel game before we went to college, all those friends that went to Ole Miss, Mississippi State, LSU that we all played with, some went to play in the World Series just right there. We had so much fun together. And when it's over, man, it sucks. It really does.
Did you feel like you kind of lost like your team to some degree? Like when you went into the corporate space or when you went into financial advising, like, did you feel like you kind of lost a little bit of your team?
A little bit. I mean, I knew I was going to gain some new people. I didn't doubt myself and those things. It's just, you feel like that, it's time to grow up, and it's time to become a big boy, big girl. And it's just that transition. It's a big deal. And so my kids graduate or anything like that, I'll think the same thing. I don't mind shedding a tear.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So systems integration. So you went from financial advising to getting into this commercial space, and that they're two totally different worlds.
It's funny how I got into it. I'll tell you.
Like, how did you get into that? Like, because I think that there's such a unique opportunity for former athletes or whoever is, has that discipline, grittiness to them to go into a sales or business development or account management role. But I didn't even realize that systems integration at the time was like a good career path, right? It was something that I stumbled into, and
somebody's got to do it, right?
Yeah. Like, so how did you get into that? Like, was it something that was purposeful or?
Oh my gosh, no. And I just think sometimes it's a God thing. I mean, if you're working towards something and you're being presentable and professional, it just stuff happens. And I was celebrating taking my financial advising job and signing contract paperwork with that. And a buddy of mine, Trent Cheese, he's helped me with it's in my wedding. Trent's awesome, guys. You'll have to look him up. Hillbilly Viking on Instagram, hiker, kayaker, awesome person. But we went to celebrate, and one of his buddies, he taught this. He's a teacher too. He taught one of this, my buddy's friend, and I met him that day, and we were on the golf course, and he knew I had a job, and he said that day he hired me, and he didn't even know, a future role popped up in like you said, the fire safety world and national accounts director and manager. And a few months later, when the financial advising thing popped up, he wanted to interview. I mean, the rest was history. Right afterwards, he gave me a job.
Why? So like, what made you make that dramatic shift? Was it him? Was it like the excitement? Because like, to me, life safety stuff is not sexy. Like
I say that all the time.
It can be really like, it can be fun to put together. Like, I absolutely love looking at drawings and like starting to think through like the engineering side of things, which is not even my background, but like, it can be tedious and fun, but it's not sexy, so to speak. So like, what made you make that decision just like that?
So, and right before that interview, I was at another interview, this big insurance. Well, I'm not even sure. Everybody would know if I had it, but they interviewed me and they offered me a job. So I went back to my wife's apartment, and we're just debriefing. I got another call, and they wanted me to put my suit back on and go interview for another job. And so I had a competing offers right there, but I just went with this one and immediately started traveling to Tampa, LA, and all this, because there was a lot of outside sales and there was a lot of account manager in it. There was a lot of growing current clients. And so, I'm traveling across the country. I'm playing golf. There's no kids. I'm about to get married, and it was a lot of fun. You just want, you got athletes, you got filmmakers on here and all that, but you know what? Somebody's got to build the building. Somebody's got to maintain the buildings that we all stay in and travel in. And it just kind of found me, Amanda, and I'm still trying to find a way out, and I can't, not yet, at least.
Well, it's such a niche, but it's such a fun thing because like you said, like when you start thinking and unpacking all these things, like everybody needs life safety systems within their buildings. Fire alarm, security systems, overhead paging systems. I mean, I was working in hospitals and health systems, so nurse call systems, like these are absolute requirements. And so quite frankly, the opportunity is substantial because every single building needs it. Right?
Yeah, you're so right. I mean, people take it for granted when they're, say, LA, and they're in buildings, high rises, they're in resorts, that they just assume that stuff works. But somebody's got to make it work. Somebody's got to put it in. Somebody's got to make sure that they maintain it. And, it's not sexy, but it pays the bills. It's paying for college accounts and vacations. And that's okay. But I think one for me, and I'll say this, if you got a child going into college and they don't know what they do. Man, I went into English and political science, one, because I didn't want to be tied down to something. My dad was a lawyer, and I was like, man, maybe I'll be a lawyer. But it developed me as a thinker, as a speaker. And usually when I'm around people and I'm talking to them, I resonate pretty quickly. I'm still trying to up my game. Still trying to become a better speaker, but it helped me speak, my cadence, my tone. And you're always asked to speak and analyze your thoughts and debate, and it always helped me. So
for anybody today, oh, we have somebody else popping in here. So Michael's tuning in. Hey, Michael, good to see you. He's tuning in from Africa, so that's super
awesome.
exciting to see you. He's doing some exciting work out there. So here's the thing, for anybody tuning in, the sales cycles that we're talking about are very long, complicated sales processes. Mostly when you're talking about system sales, these are very long sales cycles. My experience was anywhere from 6 months to 6 years. We had tons of procurement hurdles to jump through. So like, when it comes to, like, I want to dive into the sales side because I think that there's a lot of area of opportunity for people to learn from you in regards to your experience on the sales side. So what are some business development or even account management tips that you could give to some folks tuning in that could take into their businesses, whether they're small business owners, athletes, salespeople, whatever their profession is? What are some good tips or tricks that you would give to them?
Man, that's great. I mean, I think it really comes down to, we got to get to our drive and effort. What do you want to accomplish? If you want to be in outside sales, hopefully you're trying to make as much money as possible. And so you got to think about your drive and effort. You're going to have leaders that give you activity levels that you need to hit. They're going to give you a good sales process. But my tips is, if you're going to get into outside sales, you need to get after it. You need to stand out and be as professional as possible and put in the amount of cold calls, the amount of emails, the amount of networking that you need to do to hit your personal and family and financial goals, and then work backwards. You'll find that people that don't want to do it, they don't. And so I'm always questioning drive and effort. There's some good companies out there that will pay well based on your effort. So the tips that I'd have is think about your level of activity to hit your goals. How many people do I need to contact? And then how often I need to follow up with them. Because people are going to work with people really that they trust. Not everybody's going to have issues right off, and they're going to want to switch to you immediately. So you have to build that trust, and you have to be willing to get after it and prove to them that, hey, I'm the vendor, I'm the solution provider that you want. And they may not have pain points yet. So you need to stick with it. A lot of people just quit. Man, that person's not getting back with you. I'm just going to give up on it. You know what? Like you just said, the 6 months to 18 months, you have to earn it. And a lot of what our type of clients, they're in 3 to 5 year contracts. So don't give up. I think the sports thing is all about don't give up. When we are doing sports, and you and I talked about this on my podcast, it's all about thousands of reps, the right reps. It goes into sales too. If you want to make X amount of money, you got to put in the reps to do it. And some people don't want to have the level of effort because it's hard. Getting a no for some people is hard. Getting a maybe. You're not selling. You're not trying to get a yes right away. So you need to, a couple of tips is don't give up, question your drive and effort, and then really think about when somebody, your leader or manager, gives you a level of activity that you need to hit, put that right there as you're driving down the road. Have a little sticky note of how many calls I need to make, how many follow-ups I need to make, and stick to it and make it natural. One other thing I would say is practice on the side by yourself. Get in front of a mirror, record yourself, say what you're trying to say when you're driving to and from appointments so it's natural. People, and here's what I'm saying too, Amanda, people don't want to get better. People don't want to make a play. And if you won't, you tell your wife, you tell your husband, you tell your friends, hey, I want to do this, show me. And no one's going to create or make your goals or hit your goals for you. And so I think that will start there. Think about your goals for your family, yourself. You can be single. Where do you want to go across the world? How much money does any make? And let that drive your effort. I hope that helps.
Yeah, so this is gold. This is amazing information. Another thing, I want to dive into this because I think it's really critical for job seekers. So if you are actively seeking sales roles, ask the questions. Do you have metrics assigned to your existing sales processes? Do you know what works? Do you know what doesn't work? I've stepped into roles where there weren't a lot of these metrics, and it was my responsibility to figure things out.
Yeah.
And that makes it a lot, it's a longer
really gray.
play. it makes things a little bit more challenging. But I knew going into that role that that was the expectation, that I was going to start working towards setting some of those metrics. But if you're a go-getter and you don't have the desire to set metrics, find organizations that you can work for that have a clear and defined sales process, so you know how to go out there and crush it. That there's two totally different organizations to support that effort. And I think that sometimes people will just find, hey, this is a sales role, I can jump into the sales role and I'll figure it out. And that's not always the case.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to be around people and that's a great transition to what you asked and what I just said. I leave out other people. When I say drive and effort, look to people like Amanda to help you take your game to the next level. Ask, hey, how can I do this better? Or what do you do? Or what? It still comes down to activity, but how can you get better with people faster? And then maybe your sales will go up. Or if you're an entrepreneur, you still got to attack and get activity levels to hit the level of revenue that you want at the end of the year for your personal and financial goals and such. So I love what you said. Surround yourself with other people, the professionals, and maybe your game will go up quicker and just relying on yourself, right?
So what are some metrics? So we've got Cody popping in here. He says all about them KPIs. That is so true. We had Cody on last week. I'd really love to know, like, what are you tracking right now? Like, because I think that depending upon like the organization and the sales roles, like there's some similarities, but I'm really curious from your perspective, like within your organization, what are things that you're tracking right now that you're really like keeping a keen eye on?
Yeah, that's a great question. The KPIs, you want to manage the process, support, and lead the people. You want them to drive the KPIs and not just look at people based on a number. The proof's in the pudding. This person is based on their numbers. Okay, but we do love people. We want them to be supportive. But really for us is how many proposals, how many opportunities are you creating yourself? So we have that each and every week. That tells a story. You can't spin that. You can't. Stats lie in some ways. That stat does not lie. I tell people all the time on the outside sales, don't rely upon your leads and referrals to get your growth. Those are icing on the cake. What you drive yourself week in, week out is going to tell the story. And also, when you look at rankings, Amanda, you can tell who does that and who doesn't. You can't spin it.
It's pretty clear. Like it becomes pretty clear. The only gray area becomes is if it's a new product and service. Like that's where it can be a little bit more, in my opinion, a little bit more challenging to capture because you're still trying to figure out what's the effective sales process here.
Yeah. I just think that whatever you're creating on your own, that's one of the biggest KPIs. Now, each opportunity, how big are they in sales revenue, the sales price? If it's $500 or $500,000, there's a story that the pipeline tells as well. But you can direct that back to how many proposals or opportunities, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter if you're selling systems or water bottles or whatever. How is that person getting after it? And how does your CRM display that? And you need to be able to coach people on, if you want success, here's those little things to get to success. And it's all about new opportunities, and your drive and effort shows that.
You know what's really interesting? So it doesn't matter in my opinion how good of a salesperson you are. There are always opportunities to learn from other professional salespeople.
That just fires me up. Like, here.
Like selling changes so dramatically. That's why I love it. Like it doesn't matter. Like as a entrepreneur, now I'm selling for my organization, right? And
right, absolutely.
We have to sell, right? So what are some things, like maybe some tips or tricks that you've seen a lot of success in that are like your go-to either questions you ask clients or ways that you continue to move the sales process forward? Because I think that, so for me, I'll give you an example. One of my tips or tricks is when I'm having an initial conversation with somebody, I always ask them, how do you want me to communicate with you? It is my responsibility to follow up with you. So do you prefer text, email, phone call, whatever? I don't care what it is. Do you snail mail, whatever it is. But that puts the expectation on the follow-up. I'm going to be reaching out. We're going to be having a conversation. And they give me this is how they want to be communicated with. And so when it comes to ghosting or whatever. Like typically that doesn't necessarily happen because I'm communicating with the way that they've set the expectation around. So what are some tips that you may have for people that are listening in?
The one thing that's come to my mind, there are so many different things, and you're right.
Yep.
Things like this, the podcast, that's ways you can stand out more than anybody. So my first thing is to be the best version of yourself that you can be and stand out outside of your competition. The activity will always be there. So if you're out working or putting more numbers in, that's number one. But two, man, if you're going to have any of those activity, you need to stand out. It's how you dress, how you speak. Listen more than any other contractor. Look for as many potential pain points or areas and ask about those. How can you get your program better? How can I help? Are there any needs that you have that no one's supplying? And in those questions, you can be able to hit that up and hopefully provide some of those solutions. But I think it's really be the best version of yourself that you can be. And it's always whether you look, whether you dress, how you speak, how you listen, your cadence, your tone of how you speak to them. And then, know your script, right? That people think of scripts are so hard, but I think there's you may have an actor or somebody on here, but they always work on their craft. So when they are in front of somebody, they look sharp. And look, I'm not pretty, but I help people. I take the level of say if I'm cold calling somebody, I take that barrier down, how I make people feel, and I think that's a big deal. And people aren't willing to use that tip to get their craft a little bit better. Does that make sense? Does that help?
So how important, I'm trying to frame this up appropriately. So I'm going to change the question.
Sure. Yeah.
So sales to me is such an exciting thing. I absolutely, how important is it? And this is how I'll say it. How important is it for you to be passionate about what you're selling? Because I get asked this all the time. How are you? Yeah. And granted, we're creating a lot of what we're selling, and we're still trying to figure out a lot of the things that we're working on. So I have this unique position of being uber passionate because we've been creating what we're doing. But I really want to know from your perspective, how critical is it for people in sales to be passionate about the products and services that they're selling?
Man, that's a good question, loaded question, because like you said earlier, fire safety and stuff like that, it's not sexy, but I am passionate about keeping people safe and such, but I'm passionate about what I bring to the table. So I come off differently. I know my team, whatever office I'm serving here in the Southeast, if I'm speaking to them, I know I'm going to back it up. If we make a mistake, and they can hear that in my voice, we're going to fix it. So I'm passionate about their experience with us as a supplier or a contractor. It may not be, I'm not going to work so much outside of talking about sprinkler heads and such, because it's not
sexy. Well, what you're selling is an absolute critical component to saving people's lives. It's not sexy to some degree, but the entire ecosystem around it can be a pretty amazing thing.
Yeah. And I think having that, when you're talking about it, you're passionate about saving people. You're passionate about not just being, taking care of the law and what the fire marshal says and such, but it's just being passionate about what you're trying to accomplish. You're trying to keep their building safe and make their jobs easier. And they can hear that in your voice. And so it's about how you present yourself and passionate about helping them and making sure that, my God, your experience with us is going to be top notch and all that. So I'm passionate about that, and it comes across. So if I mess up something, I fix it quick.
Do you think passion will drive some of the activity? So for example, I'll give you an example. So I'm really excited about this conversation. So I sent it out to a ton of people. I'm very excited about the Thursday event. I literally sent it to probably 200 or 300 people individually, similar message. But to me, it's my responsibility in a sales type capacity role to get the word out there. It's not necessarily to push product or service.
Yeah.
It's more about getting the word out there, building that community around the things that you're passionate about. And it may resonate with some people, may not, but that, hey, if you're getting this out and you're passionate about it, that will come through from an intention perspective. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it's you may not be working for the best company in the world. You may not be working for the best manager in the world. But if you're stuck or whatever, man, you got to be driven by what you want to accomplish in this life and your goals and your financial goals. And that has to be your passion. And I think that people have to question that. What do I want to do with my life? And how do I want to get there? How can I get there? So you got to be passionate about something, because if not, and I told you this the other day, no one's going to come to you and say, hey, I want you to help you get all your goals in life. I'm going to help you get there financially as well. That ain't going to happen. It's just it's not going to happen. So you have to really think about that mindset. Because guess what, Amanda, if you're working for a company, you want to accomplish these goals, but you're not passionate about what you do, and you don't come off excited about your product, your service, it ain't going to happen. They're not going to buy from you. People want to buy from people that they trust and ultimately like. And those are some tips. And like, if you feel like you need to get a little bit more likable, then you need to work on the side. I think
sales may not be,
it ain't for everybody, but
it is not. But so what I have found, like, I had this weird negative connotation around sales for a long time, because like it's sales carsman, or like carman, like, but that is not it at all, especially when you get to like an account executive or a national accounts director. Like, it's very much around community. And so I want to dive into, you've kind of done something very similar to me as far as launch into a media component on how you are becoming a subject matter expert in driving leads your way. So like, at what point were you, John, like, I'm going to start a podcast? Because you're in this life safety role, this national accounts role, and then you're like, I'm going to make a play. Like, I'm going to go into a totally different and talk about the things I'm really passionate about. Like, how is that impacted? Because so many people ask, why are you doing the podcast? Or why are you doing this? And so I want to dive into that, because I think that there's a critical component to it that a lot of people can maybe even learn from.
Yeah. So a few years ago, I started another podcast called Speak It with another person. And we did that together and had different guests on and whatnot. So I took about a 3-year hiatus, once I did some regional manager type roles. And then really just recently, I want to continue to step my game up and kind of help create my personal brand, because once again, no one's going to come to you and say, I think you need to create your personal brand and make it better. And because mine is, my passion goes for my family goals and my individual goals. So I needed to do something more than was just what my company was providing. They let me do that and tell the story about Summit Fire and Security, obviously. But I have a passion to help other people. I have a passion to collaborate with other people. My entrepreneur type goal may be different than others that, like you, that it's just you and a couple others for your company. But I'm passionate about helping other people or helping light other people's fires. And I may help one person on this talk today, but you know what? That's going to be good enough for me. They may help 3 others.
Yep.
And so you got to think about I have a passion to freaking help other people. And that's my thing. It's called make a play. Somebody needs to make a play. And for themselves, another kid, another company, whatever. And you have to question your passion. And my passion is a big deal about just helping other people in leadership, man. So I love to speak, and I want to speak more. And I want that too.
So why speaking? Because there's a lot of former athletes that are looking to get into speaking as well. So like, why does speaking resonate with you so much?
I don't know. It's just, it's not that I just can talk. I think that I've seen the sports journey and myself and being around coaches, but also paying attention to college football so much now and how they encourage your kids and how they're changing kids' lives and all that. And it's not fake. They have authors come in. They have people that motivate and inspire the kids, because these are kids. These are babies in college they don't know anything yet. They know ball. Or gymnastics or whatever, but they don't know life yet. And so to be able to be part of that process to help other people become confident, not question themselves. People come from different backgrounds, broken or whatever. And to be a part of inspiring or motivating people to take that next step or don't question themselves. I think that's a big deal. Everybody, we try to compare ourselves, we question ourselves. And here's the thing, if you want to get after it, you want to go get it. You may need some people, some help, some classes, but go get it, and don't talk yourself out of it because you're comparing yourself to somebody else and stuff like that. I want to talk to people about it and help them. And I want to challenge people as a coach might. And I may sound like coach speak. It may sound kind of intense.
That's okay. We can totally relate to this, because I mean, like I said, I coached for a little while. I'm not doing it now, but I mean, it's an interesting so to convey a message to somebody else that plants that seed, there's nothing more beautiful to me than when that happens, when you plant that seed and you can see the twinkle in their eye and they're like, oh, and this is an athlete thing, because I can pick up in gymnasts very quickly. If I say something and it resonates fully with them, to me, that's what lights me up, is because I know I have just planted the seed that they then have the ability to grow should they decide to go down that path. And that's, speaking was not something that was really on my radar. And Rhett Power just chimed in here, who's going to be live in Nashville on Thursday. I know I've said it 3 times, but he's the one that actually was like, hey, Amanda, you should be doing a media show. So Sports to Suits Live was really from an inspirational conversation that I had with him. He planted that seed. So total shout out to him.
I love that.
But for me, and this is something, so for anybody that's tuning in that wants to launch a podcast or a video podcast, the barrier to entry is very low. In your head, you may be talking about all of the challenges that you have or how difficult it is to get started, but the biggest challenge to overcome is you actually doing it. Would you say that is?
Yeah. How do I get there? How do I do that? And I had to have some help. I talked to you about Trent Cheese, and my wife was like, man, you need to do this. You need to get back into this. And after each episode, you're getting better, right? I'm asking for feedback. How do I get better and such? But absolutely, it's very easy to get into. And if you're passionate about something, just don't worry about how many followers you got at first. Just build something and then watch it grow over time. And here's the thing, you're growing before anybody else does. And let that be something that lights your flame. You're trying to get better. You're trying to help other people. So
here's another thing here's another why. Okay. So I'm going to give another why on the video side, and I would love to know your why on the podcast side. But for me, I find a lot of joy when I'm provided an opportunity, connecting other people to an opportunity as well. So I get a lot of joy from helping elevate other people through community or through opportunity. And so I'm always trying to, how can I use the platform that I have? Video audio is a platform to help elevate the word of other people. You have a community built. So it's such a great opportunity to help elevate the lives of other people. And John, I'll have to share this with you. I had somebody just text me and say, hey, I may have an opportunity for John. So this is why we do this. Like, what is your why on the podcasting side? Because I think a lot of people just think, oh, we'll put together a podcast and we'll just have a conversation, but that's not just what it's about.
No, it's not. I mean, I've got a limited amount of information that I can help people. I'm 38. I've got all kinds of stuff I can talk about. I'm passionate about outside of work, but I'm bringing people to others that can help them elevate, really not just them, but their lives. Leadership experts, leadership speakers, entrepreneurs, executives, small business owners, and what they went through to get to this point, because there's other people sitting on the diving board ready to take that next step, but they're not sure what's at the bottom of that pool or right there or what's next. And so that's why I have these people on, because I'm curious. I've got some, I'd like to do some other stuff on the side because of my goals. So I'm using those conversations to help me, but there's so many other people who can get help by people's journey. Yep. And what they went through and what was holding them back, or how they got to that small business executive role, or now I'm all by myself on my own, like Amanda, and what it took to get there. And then what was inside of them, what set it up, what started that. I want to know that. And guess what, though? I want to be able to tell that story for other people. That's why
and that's the beautiful thing about all of this. Like, if you have a platform that elevates the lives of other people, every single person's story matters. Like, everybody has a unique story. Everybody has a unique message. Everybody has unique life lessons that they could teach other people. And there are people, maybe you and me, John, that need to hear what those life lessons are, right? And so it's just such a beautiful platform to get the word out there. And like I said, LinkedIn, like, the barrier to entry is really not that challenging to overcome. The biggest piece is convincing yourself to actually do it.
Right. Well, here's the thing. Who's our biggest critic? Who's the person that's putting the stop on most things? It's us. And I think that's the part of this as well. And I mean, we're going to have sports and different things on I'm going to talk more sports too on my podcast and things like that. But it's really get to where people stop questioning themselves. If you want to do something, get out. You live once, right? Before the afterlife, you live one time. You got to go get it if you want it. And so conversations like this, or people like yourself or myself, hopefully, will encourage somebody to take that step. And that's why like I said, I'm opening my mouth to try to help other people. And hey, Dan Parks in a networking event suggested, hey, you need to reach out to Amanda. So I'm like, am I going to reach out to Amanda? She's probably not going to think I'm a baller enough, and she's probably not going to say nothing to me. And well, guess what? We got on, and so I had to resonate with you. It didn't just happen by itself, right? I had to have a little bit of a game where you'd want to talk to me, but none of that stuff happens by itself. Your game does not get
here's
elevated.
The deal.
By
okay, so anybody who's tuning in, like, please just send a message to, like, if you, and I'm going to make an analogy, a sports analogy. So my daughter was playing soccer yesterday, and she plays in goal. So she plays U13 travel soccer, and goalies really struggle with making quick decisions and actually sticking through. So is the ball coming to the goal? Am I going to kick it or pick it up? Those are quick things. And I watched her as she was hesitating a little bit. And one of the biggest challenges in life is this hesitation moment of, do I actually do it? But the reality is if she didn't pick it up, like, she went to go pick it up and she grabbed it. But if she wouldn't have done that, somebody would have shot the ball in the goal. And so like, where I'm going at with this is, like,
no, for sure.
Take this as a message to send out the email, send out the text message, send out the message for whatever you are looking to do. So take this as a just take the initiative to do it. The biggest thing is actually just hitting send. That's it.
You're right. Take that chance. I mean, is a no going to hurt you? Go to the next one. Josh Allen, Buffalo Bills quarterback, he's trying to leave JUCO to go play D1 ball. He sent out so many messages, so many videos, and then Wyoming finally bit. And the guy was physically gifted. Now he's a quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, and everybody knows him. If you want something bad enough, you'll take the level of the things you need to do to go get it. And the last thing on sports, man, the level of input or the stuff I put into the reps when I was a child and teenager and before college, one of the reasons I'm so confident in things that if I want to go do it, because of my success in sports. And, like I said, I stepped to a batter's box and I expected to hit a ball a long way. And that goes for me now. It's when I don't question myself. If I'm willing to put in the effort, I'm going to accomplish it. And I don't have to compare myself to go be this or that. I just need to be able to hit my family and financial goals and things I want to do. And other than that, I don't have to worry about comparing myself to other people. Does that make sense?
Oh, it's absolutely, like, so we'll go back to the podcasting because this is kind of a good synergy here. So if you're comparing yourself to somebody that has a very seasoned show with a lot of resources, those shows are typically productized in a sense of there's a lot of people helping make that thing happen.
Yeah.
But just because you don't have access to those resources doesn't necessarily mean that you can't get started. We are just now looking at how to more formalize the show in different ways. But now I have a year worth of data and understanding of the show. But if I wouldn't have gotten started, even with the free versions of StreamYard, and you may be the same way where you had to kind of figure out a solution and just get it out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this isn't anything. This is in whatever you're trying to do.
Yeah. You kind of like, hey, what are people going to think? It doesn't matter. I put a conversation out there that could help somebody. And that's the thing I need to think about, because you can't worry about people critiquing you and whatever. I mean, or how long it's going to take to get this go. If you're passionate about it and you've got your reasons why you're doing it, get after it. It's one thing, another tip, like I enjoy talking with Amanda a few weeks ago, 2 or 3 different times. And if you want to up your game, be better with conversation. Amanda's great with conversation, delivery, and all those things. And if you want to get further with people, you need to have great conversations. You need to be a great listener and be able to listen to not respond, but listen to understand the other person. I think that would help people across the world. Don't have to be a celebrity for that. People are always trying to get their opinion. I'm not trying to put my opinion on somebody. I'm a very confident person. I don't have to put my opinion on other people. I can say, Amanda, I've never thought about it like that, and I appreciate where you come from. That's pretty cool. I've never thought about that. And you don't have people do that anymore because they're so focused on the points that they hear from their favorite people, and they're just regurgitating that. So be a good conversationalist. Listen to other people and appreciate their background and their likes and their passions. You may learn something that you like you never thought about. So,
and don't, oh, this is one of my pet peeves. So like I could see the benefit of some of this, but like all of the content that is generated, and I know you're similar in nature to this, like all the content, all of the writing that I do, like I actually sit there and write it out. I don't use AI generators, and I truly start thinking through, okay, like what messaging do I want to say? And I don't take shortcuts with that. Like sometimes weekly content's really good, sometimes it's a little bit off, but like that's the thing, John, that you've just said so eloquently, is like you can't be like, what you are putting out there is a direct reflection of your thoughts, your feelings, how you're actually like trying to help make impact. Sometimes it resonates, sometimes it doesn't, but I know that if I put this out here, there's a reason why.
yeah.
And you know, there's haters, there's people that'll, you know, say or do whatever they're going to do, but you can't let that distract you from actually doing the things that you're interested in doing.
That's a heck of a point, because when I see something you put out there, I look for how you're trying to impact people, or how hard she worked at announcing this. I didn't look for a hole or something to critique or whatever. And people do that. And I tell you what, you got to be so unhappy to be able to just pick apart other people, and but just be confident when somebody does that. You don't have to please them. And it's don't take advice from people or don't take criticism from people you wouldn't take advice from. That's a big deal. That's another nugget that if other people would take that, it may change their life. Just that one little statement. It's not my statement, people. It's somebody else's. So
Mistakes are human. Like I posted this morning about an event and I had the wrong date and I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot to change it. But like mistakes are human. So don't let like the potential mistakes that you may or may not make distract you from the impact that you're looking to create or make. And
Absolutely.
also like surround yourself with incredible people like John that like are on this growing and learning journey. They're there to support you. They're not there to criticize. They're not there to like point fingers when mistakes are made. And you know, that's the biggest thing that I've just been so grateful for, is this incredible community that one, the show is built, and two, like how we're all focused on this growing and learning journey. And so once again, if you're tuning in, definitely connect with John. I'm going to drop a banner here of his. So walkoffwin10.podbeam.com is his podcast. So head over there and definitely subscribe to that so you can hear some of the episodes that he's had. They're amazing. I've really enjoyed tuning into some of those. So definitely subscribe. And we've got about a couple more minutes. Like any last words that you want to, or words of encouragement or advice you want to provide to people? This has been a great conversation, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks for driving it. I appreciate it. No, it's just, guys, get out there and help other people. And really, I was talking to a friend the other day that I play college ball with, and he's talking about things he wants to accomplish. And he coached college ball as well. And I was like, man, you just really have to start with your goals. What do you want to accomplish? And then work backwards, because if you're just floundering and you don't know, and that's okay, right? But you need to really think about what you want to accomplish, and not just monetarily, right? So back off. You don't have to be as rich as this person, or you can be a teacher and think about how you want to affect the lives of your kids better. Don't compare yourself. But I think you really need to start thinking about your level of drive and effort. Doesn't matter if you're an introvert or extrovert. Think about your drive and effort on the things you want to accomplish. And like you said, surround yourselves with people that will elevate your game. That's what I'm trying to do, because no one's going to elevate your game by, or it's not going to happen by itself. I'm sorry.
Nope.
That play is not going to make itself. Okay? Get out there and make a play and really stand out. You want to accomplish this stuff, but you're not willing to stand out. And so just get better every day. And there's one book that helped drive a lot of this was, oh gosh, it's right over there. It is Atomic Habits. Get 1% better every single day. And as he says, at the end of the year, you'll be 30+% better, whether it's a weight journey, entrepreneurial journey, your relationships journey, people getting around people like Amanda. If you reach out to one person like Amanda or myself once a day, your network is going to be different. And so you are the tribe that you're around as well. So there's a couple little nuggets that I would leave with. And hey, man, get out there and help somebody.
Well, John, thank you so much for joining in. This has been so much fun. I know that there's been a ton of gold dropped in this conversation. So thank you so much for joining. And to everybody tuning in, definitely drop a comment. Let us know maybe even something that you learned on this conversation. I'm always curious to hear how it impacted you. So I always get really nice messages, and it's always such a pleasure to host these conversations. And until next week, I'll see everybody later. And if John or I can be of assistance in any way, please do not hesitate to reach out. Would love to hear from you and help in any way that we can. And John, I know that you're the same way. So to everybody tuning in, thanks again, and we'll see you again next week.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.